You are standing in your own kitchen at 2 a.m., the lights are completely out, and you are staring in absolute horror at a glowing red padlock icon on your refrigerator door. Your child is crying from hunger in the next room, but your programmable digital wallet has just frozen your access to the government-mandated synthetic protein blocks because you slightly exceeded your monthly carbon quota. What if I told you that this terrifying nightmare isn't a scene from a cheap dystopian sci-fi movie, but the exact mathematical reality currently being signed into global law under the shiny disguise of environmental rescue? We have been thoroughly conditioned to believe that the end of the world will arrive with deafening nuclear sirens or massive fiery explosions in the sky. But the ancient, uncompromising prophetic texts explicitly warn us that the true apocalypse actually begins quietly, right in the grocery store aisle, with a single loaf of natural bread costing an entire day's wage. Today, we are completely ripping the beautiful eco-friendly mask off the global food agenda. We are going to expose how the intentional destruction of independent farming, the aggressive patenting of natural seeds, and the rollout of highly processed synthetic rations are all part of a flawless, bloodless trap designed to turn your own kitchen into a high-security prison. You genuinely think you are just adapting to modern times and buying sustainable groceries, but you are actually funding your own absolute biological enslavement. Think about a bustling, high-end commercial kitchen right in the middle of a busy morning rush. The chef has a flawless schedule, the ovens are perfectly preheated, and the team is completely ready to bake those incredible specialized cakes you love. However, all of that preparation relies entirely on the delivery truck arriving at the back door with fresh, real ingredients. If that truck intentionally never shows up, it doesn't matter how talented the chef is or how modern the kitchen might be. The entire production instantly collapses. That exact same vulnerability applies to our global food supply right now. But on a much more terrifying and deliberate scale, we are currently witnessing a completely intentional disruption of the very supply chains that keep our plates full and our families fed. Under the heavy, noble-sounding banner of saving the climate, global authorities are aggressively forcing traditional family-owned farms to shut their doors for good. It's not that the earth has suddenly forgotten how to grow food or that the fertile soil has turned to dust overnight. Instead, bureaucratic red tape, extreme emissions taxes, and impossible environmental quotas are actively cutting off the delivery routes of our most basic raw materials. They are artificially choking the life out of the people who actually know how to feed the world. Honestly, it's a bit like watching a perfectly good ship being deliberately sunk by its own captain, while the passengers are told it's for their own safety. The mainstream media constantly paints these generational farmers as villains who are supposedly destroying the planet, slowly conditioning the public to actually cheer for the destruction of their own food source. But when you forcibly remove the hard-working people who have known how to work the land for centuries, you create an incredibly dangerous vacuum in the market. You aren't just losing a few crops or cattle. You are systematically dismantling the independence of the human diet. If you strip away the slick political jargon, the strategy here is as old and ruthless as ancient warfare. You lay siege to the city by cutting off the supply lines first. The architects of this new system know perfectly well that a population with full stomachs and stocked pantries is a population that can still stand up and demand freedom. However, a society that doesn't know where its next meal is coming from will eventually trade absolutely any right or liberty just to survive the week. Hunger is the ultimate, undeniable tool of mass submission, and they're engineering it right in front of our eyes with signed legislation and smiling press conferences. We are being told by global experts to prepare for a future of sustainable scarcity. A phrase that is thrown around so casually, it almost sounds comforting if you don't think too deeply about it. But there is absolutely nothing comforting about watching massive tractors being seized and gorgeous, fertile fields being forcibly left to rot by global decree. They are deliberately starving the free market of real, homegrown food, ensuring that the grocery store shelves will soon look completely unrecognizable to you and me. The system is meticulously choking out the independent producer to forcefully pave the way for a much darker, highly centralized alternative. By eliminating the local farmer, the global elite are completely clearing the board for the next phase of this deeply prophetic engineered famine. Because once the independent supply lines are totally destroyed, the entities who actually own the physical land will dictate exactly what the rest of the world eats. And if you look closely at who is quietly buying up millions of acres of this newly abandoned, fertile soil, while everyone else is distracted, the truth will send shivers down your spine. They aren't just buying up empty dirt. They are preparing to claim absolute, exclusive legal ownership over the very building blocks of nature itself. If you really wanted to bankrupt every single independent restaurant in your town, you wouldn't necessarily need to ban people from eating out. A much quieter, far more effective strategy would be to simply buy up all the commercial real estate and fertile land in the surrounding area. Without a place to operate or grow their fresh ingredients, those small businesses would naturally suffocate and close their doors without you ever firing a single shot. That is exactly the brilliant, ruthless playbook currently being used against our global agricultural system by a handful of extremely powerful tech billionaires. While the media points the finger at the everyday farmer for changing the weather, these elites are quietly sweeping in and purchasing millions of acres of prime farmland. They are positioning themselves to be the sole landlords of the earth, holding the ultimate monopoly over the very dirt we need to survive. It's honestly a bit terrifying when you realize that whoever actually owns the soil completely dictates what is allowed to sprout from it. You see, these new mega landlords aren't buying up all this beautiful generational farmland to plant traditional wheat or graze happy, grass-fed cattle. They are completely transforming these vast landscapes into highly controlled, sterile testing grounds for their own proprietary agricultural experiments. We are watching the greatest wealth transfer in modern history, but instead of trading gold or stocks, they are hoarding the Earth's natural fertility. It feels a lot like playing a rigged game of Monopoly, where one player suddenly owns every single property on the board and makes up the rent prices. When a tiny, unelected group controls the physical foundation of our food supply, they hold the ultimate leverage over every nation on the planet. But merely owning the dirt wasn't quite enough for them. They had to go a step further and actually claim ownership over the miracle of life itself. Through aggressive genetic modification and endless legal maneuvering, these massive corporations are now actively patenting the very seeds that grow our food. Imagine a world where a tiny, natural seed, something that has been freely blown by the wind for millennia, is now classified as strict intellectual property. It's absolutely wild to think that nature's basic code is being copyrighted, meaning you are legally forbidden from saving your own seeds for the next harvest. They have effectively turned the ancient, beautiful act of planting a garden into a potential copyright infringement lawsuit waiting to happen. By holding the exclusive patents on what we eat, they transform us from free citizens into biological renters who must pay a subscription fee just to survive. This isn't some crazy sci-fi movie plot. This is happening right now in courtrooms and corporate boardrooms while we are distracted by the evening news. If the wind happens to blow their patented, genetically altered seeds into your private backyard, they can actually sue you for stealing their intellectual property. They are systematically criminalizing the deeply human tradition of growing your own food, forcing everyone into total reliance on their monopolized, centralized supply chain. You have to admit, it takes a special kind of hubris to look at a tomato plant and declare that it legally belongs to a tech billionaire. It's a beautifully orchestrated trap that gently strips away your independence, leaving you totally at the mercy of their heavily guarded corporate-owned silos. The ultimate goal is to make sure that absolute dependence on the system is your only legally viable option for feeding your family. When you connect these dots, you start to see the chilling shadow of that ancient prophetic rider holding the black scales of scarcity. This engineered monopoly isn't just about making astronomical profits, it is about establishing a level of absolute compliance that no army could ever achieve. If you don't play by their rules, they simply revoke your license to access their patented crops, effectively starving you out of the new society. It's an incredibly polite, bloodless form of tyranny, hiding behind slick corporate logos and promises of an eco-friendly, sustainable future. They are locking up the Earth's natural bounty and throwing away the key, ensuring that nobody can bypass their heavily monitored gates. We are slowly waking up to the reality that our basic, God-given right to harvest the Earth is being legally stolen right out from under us. Now, you might be wondering what exactly they plan to do with all this monopolized land once the traditional crops are completely gone. Because if they aren't going to let us eat normal, natural food from the dirt anymore, they have to replace it with something else, right? They understand perfectly well that the human body still requires daily calories to keep moving, working, and paying those digital taxes. So, instead of growing food the way nature intended, they are moving the entire process inside, replacing the sunny fields with sterile, glowing laboratories. The real danger isn't just that they are taking away our farms, it's what they are quietly brewing in their massive bioreactors to replace our dinner. To understand the true nightmare of this biological hijack, we really need to look at what they are planning to put on your plate next. Think about the incredible care it takes to prepare a beautiful, healthy meal for a family member with strict dietary needs, like someone who can't have gluten or sugar. You meticulously source the absolute best natural ingredients, finding clean substitutes that genuinely nourish their body without causing harm. It is a profound act of love and precision, adapting real food to meet the unique natural demands of human biology. But the new global food system doesn't want to lovingly cater to your individual health. It desperately wants to standardize it. Instead of providing fresh, adaptable ingredients, they are rolling out heavily processed, one-size-fits-all solutions designed in sterile corporate laboratories. They are completely removing the human element from our kitchens, replacing the heart of our homes with cold, calculated chemical precision. We are witnessing the terrifying transition from natural agriculture to what they proudly call precision fermentation and cellular meat production. They are actively tearing down traditional farms and replacing them with massive glowing bioreactors that look more like oil refineries than food sources. Instead of cows grazing on green pastures or wheat swaying in the wind, your future dinner is being brewed in giant stainless steel vats. They take genetically modified microbes, feed them synthetic sugars, and literally 3D print the resulting protein paste into something resembling a steak. It's honestly a bit nauseating to realize that the eco-friendly burger they are heavily pushing on TV is essentially a patented chemical sponge. We are being systematically trained to accept heavily processed laboratory experiments as the new, unavoidable standard for human nutrition. Cooking a meal from scratch has always been one of the most deeply human traditions, connecting us to our ancestors and our culture. When you take raw, natural ingredients and transform them into a family dinner, you are participating in a ritual that goes back thousands of years. But these synthetic, government-approved nutritional blocks are designed to completely sever that ancient grounding connection to the earth and our heritage. You can't pass down a beloved family recipe when the only ingredients allowed in your home are barcoded tubes of grey protein paste. They are slowly erasing our cultural identities by making the simple, beautiful act of cooking completely obsolete and eventually illegal. A society that no longer knows how to feed itself from the dirt is a society that has lost its fundamental soul. Here is the most chilling part of this entire synthetic food agenda that nobody on the evening news is allowed to discuss. If massive tech corporations hold the exclusive legal patents to the exact chemical composition of the food you eat every single day, they effectively own you. You literally become a walking, talking, biological vessel constructed entirely out of their proprietary, copyrighted corporate materials. It's a terrifying level of control that goes way beyond merely tracking your digital bank account or monitoring your travel radius. By deciding exactly what nutrients, hormones, and chemical additives go into these mandatory synthetic blocks, they can secretly manipulate public health on a whim. If they manufacture the very fuel that keeps your heart beating, your physical body practically becomes their intellectual property. They sell this dystopian nightmare to the public by wrapping it up in beautiful buzzwords like sustainability, equity, and climate rescue. It's actually quite brilliant marketing, convincing terrified people that eating 3D printed fungus is a heroic sacrifice to save the melting ice caps. But true sustainability has always been found in harmony with nature, not in replacing the natural world with glowing corporate factories. They are creating a closed-loop system where you have absolutely zero choice in what enters your bloodstream, completely eliminating your biological autonomy. You'll walk into a modern grocery store and see thousands of brightly colored packages, completely unaware that they all contain the exact same patented sludge. The illusion of choice is the ultimate pacifier, keeping the masses perfectly content while they swallow the bars of their own cage. Of course, forcing billions of people to completely abandon real, natural food in favor of lab-grown synthetic rations isn't going to happen overnight just by asking nicely. People naturally crave fresh meat, real bread, and natural vegetables, and they will always choose them over corporate paste if given a fair choice. To make sure you gladly accept your daily synthetic block, they have to ensure that real food becomes absolutely, mathematically impossible for you to obtain. They need a weapon powerful enough to crush the middle class and make a simple loaf of natural bread feel like an unattainable luxury. And that is exactly where the ancient warning of the black horse truly comes alive, carrying a set of scales designed to completely break your wallet. Have you ever tried to fill up a cup of water only to realize there's a massive hole right at the bottom? You can stand there and pour faster and faster, exhausting yourself, but the water just keeps leaking out before you can even take a sip. That frustrating, helpless feeling is exactly what the global architects are doing to your bank account right now through the silent weapon of inflation. They are deliberately punching holes in our purchasing power, making sure that no matter how hard you work, you can never quite catch up. It's not some accidental economic misstep or a natural market fluctuation like the politicians constantly claim on the evening news. It is a highly calculated, mathematical squeezing of the middle class, designed to drain your independence drop by drop. Thousands of years ago, the ancient texts painted a chilling picture of a dark rider holding a pair of scales in his hand. He makes a terrifying decree that a single measure of wheat will cost a full denarius, which was an entire day's wage back then. We used to read that and think it sounded like ancient poetry, but today it reads like tomorrow morning's financial forecast. When it takes a whole day of backbreaking labor just to buy a simple loaf of natural bread, the system has completely enslaved you. The scales aren't there to ensure fairness. They are there to weigh out your absolute desperation and price you out of normal survival. They are weaponizing the basic cost of living to ensure that real God-given food becomes a luxury you simply cannot afford. To make this engineered famine work, they first had to completely detach our money from anything that has actual physical value. By endlessly printing digital currency and pushing us toward a cashless society, they created a financial system built entirely on thin air. This deliberate hyperinflation acts like an invisible tax, silently robbing the value of your hard-earned savings while you sleep in your bed. You wake up and suddenly the price of fresh vegetables, real meat and clean water has skyrocketed completely out of reach. You aren't necessarily making less money on paper, but the money you do have has been stripped of its true buying power. It's a brilliant, bloodless way to confiscate your wealth and funnel it straight to the top without ever breaking into your house. As the price of organic, farm-grown food hits astronomical levels, the average family is going to be pushed into a terrifying corner. When you are staring at a grocery bill that costs more than your rent, those cheap, government-subsidized synthetic blocks suddenly start looking like your only option. They don't have to legally ban you from eating a real steak. They just have to inflate the price until it costs a month's salary. It's a classic mafia shakedown, politely offering you their patented lab-grown paste as the only affordable lifeboat in a sea of hyperinflation. You will find yourself practically thanking them for providing the very synthetic rations that they engineered the crisis to sell you. They create the unbearable economic pain, and then they swoop in, wearing white lab coats to offer you the ultimate corporate cure. To keep the masses from completely rioting in the streets, they will inevitably roll out their programmable digital credits as a lifeline. They'll offer you a universal basic income, but it will be strictly coded to only purchase approved synthetic calories from their corporate partners. Your digital wallet simply won't authorize the transaction if you try to buy fresh, unpatented tomatoes from a local underground grower. This is where the trap perfectly snaps shut, seamlessly merging the engineered inflation with the digital cage we talked about earlier. You become entirely dependent on their daily allowance just to keep your stomach from growling, locking you into a cycle of absolute compliance. It's a modern-day company store where you owe your soul to the global network just to get your daily bread. While you and I are busy counting our digital pennies just to afford a grey block of lab-grown protein, don't think for a second that everyone is starving. The rules of this newly engineered scarcity are strictly meant for the general public, not the architects who designed the system. If you look closely at that ancient prophecy about the rider with the scales, there is a fascinating, mind-blowing exception buried right at the end of the decree. The voice specifically commands the rider not to touch the oil and the wine, which were the ultimate luxury items of the ancient world. It turns out that while the middle class is being priced out of basic bread, the global elite have absolutely no intention of giving up their fine dining. Which brings us to the staggering, almost unbelievable hypocrisy of what is actually being served behind their closed, heavily guarded doors. Have you ever been to a massive stadium concert where you are stuck in the cheap seats, paying a small fortune just for a lukewarm bottle of water? Meanwhile, if you look up at the glowing, glass-enclosed luxury suites, the VIPs are popping expensive champagne and eating gourmet meals behind velvet ropes. That infuriating divide is exactly what the global elite are constructing right now, but on a planetary, permanent scale. When that ancient voice commanded the rider of the black horse not to harm the oil and the wine, it was dropping a massive prophetic clue. Oil and wine were the absolute pinnacle of luxury goods in the ancient world, reserved entirely for the wealthy and powerful. It means that while the working class is being crushed by engineered starvation, the elite's luxurious lifestyle remains completely, legally untouched. The sheer, unadulterated hypocrisy of this new system is honestly enough to make your blood boil right now. You have billionaires flying across the globe in private fleets of jets, burning more fuel in a single afternoon than your family will use in a decade. They land at these exclusive economic forums to sternly lecture us about our terrible carbon footprint and the dire need to eat bugs and synthetic paste. Yet if you look at the dinner menus for these very same summits, they are feasting on wild-caught salmon, organic Wagyu beef, and vintage wines. They are absolutely not replacing their own high-end diets with the 3D printed fungal blocks they are forcing onto our grocery shelves. The rules of this so-called sustainable scarcity are strictly for the peasants, never for the kings. They are literally building a two-tiered society where real, natural food is classified as an exclusive status symbol for the ultra-rich. While they heavily tax and regulate your local farmer out of existence, they are quietly buying up pristine private islands and massive estates to grow their own organic crops. They get to enjoy the absolute best of God's creation, breathing clean air and eating fresh fruit, while we are packed into 15-minute smart cities eating corporate rations. It's the ultimate do as I say, not as I do power play, designed to humiliate the masses while elevating the architects of the new world. They want you to look at a piece of real meat the same way a medieval peasant looked at the king's castle, as something entirely out of your league. This stark contrast isn't just a byproduct of their extreme wealth. It is a highly calculated psychological weapon designed to completely break your spirit. When you are completely exhausted, staring at a grey block of synthetic protein, and you see the elite flaunting their natural feasts on a screen, it reinforces your absolute submission. It sends a very clear, silent message. They are the untouchable gods of this new era, and you are simply the livestock they are managing. They don't just want to control your diet, they want you to deeply internalize your own lower status in their grand utopian design. You are supposed to feel grateful for the crumbs they drop from their table, fully accepting that the oil and the wine simply aren't meant for you. Gosh, it is wild how perfectly this modern nightmare aligns with a text written thousands of years ago on a dusty ancient scroll. The people who completely dismiss prophecy as an outdated fairy tale are currently cheering for the very system that is actively enslaving them. We are watching the Book of Revelation play out in real time, translated into modern political treaties, climate mandates, and corporate food monopolies. The elite are securing their luxurious bunkers and private vineyards, completely insulating themselves from the devastating economic collapse they are orchestrating. They have successfully rigged the global scales, ensuring their cups overflow while our plates are carefully measured and restricted by the state. But creating this massive global divide between the elite's feast and the citizen's ration requires a flawless, foolproof system of enforcement. They know that if people can somehow grow their own food or bypass the digital currency, the entire illusion of absolute control completely falls apart. They can't just rely on border guards or police officers to monitor what every single person is secretly cooking in their own kitchen. To guarantee absolute compliance, they have to bring the surveillance apparatus directly inside your house, right into the most intimate spaces of your daily life. They need a ruthless, tireless digital warden standing right in your kitchen, monitoring every single calorie you consume before you even take a bite. Imagine living in a house where you literally have to ask your own front door for permission just to step outside. Now take that exact same suffocating level of control and place it right inside your kitchen, guarding the very food you need to survive. The global authorities know they can't station a physical guard in every single home to enforce their new synthetic diet. Instead, they are turning the everyday appliances we trust into highly advanced, silent wardens that report directly to the central grid. The smart home revolution was never actually about making your life more convenient or helping you remember to buy milk. It was a brilliantly disguised Trojan horse designed to bring absolute, undeniable compliance right into the heart of your personal sanctuary. Your brand new, state-of-the-art smart refrigerator won't just keep your synthetic ration blocks cold. It will act as the ultimate judge of your daily behavior. Because these appliances will be seamlessly linked to your programmable digital currency, every single meal becomes a monitored financial transaction. If you try to open the fridge door after your allotted calorie count for the day has been reached, it simply won't unlock. It will scan your biometric ID, check your current social credit score, and mathematically decide if you are worthy of eating dinner tonight. We used to joke about our devices listening to our conversations, but now they are actively dictating our biological survival. The cold, hard metal of your own kitchen appliances is slowly becoming the inescapable bars of a very literal, very quiet prison cell. Let's say you actually manage to find a real, unpatented piece of fruit or a fresh cut of meat on the underground market. If you bring it home and place it inside your smart pantry, the internal sensors will immediately flag it as unauthorized, non-compliant contraband. The system will instantly deduct points from your carbon quota, freezing your digital wallet and locking down your entire house until the authorities arrive. They are gamifying human survival, turning your daily caloric intake into a stressful, high-stakes test that you can never truly win. You are forced to walk on eggshells in your own home, terrified that grabbing an extra midnight snack will trigger a global alarm. Your own house has been completely weaponized against you, forcing you to police your own family just to keep the power on. They have meticulously thought of every possible loophole, ensuring that there is absolutely no physical way to bypass this digital warden. You can't just unplug the smart fridge, because doing so will instantly sever your connection to the global food distribution network. If your appliance goes offline for even a few minutes, you are automatically flagged as a rebel, and your synthetic rations are permanently cut off. It's a flawless, self-enforcing system of tyranny where the punishment for non-compliance is immediate mathematical starvation delivered by a glowing touchscreen. They have effectively trapped humanity in a corner where fighting back means literally taking the food right out of your children's mouths. The elite don't need a massive, expensive military to crush a rebellion when they can simply turn off the refrigerators with a single keystroke. The psychological toll of living under this constant, silent surveillance is going to completely break the spirit of the average person. Imagine the sheer, crushing exhaustion of knowing that your right to eat is completely dependent on your total, unquestioning obedience to the state. If you dare to complain about the government online, or if you refuse a mandated health update, your fridge will simply flash a red "access denied" screen. They are training humanity like a Pavlovian experiment, rewarding total submission with a grey paste block and punishing independent thought with agonizing hunger. We are trading the messy, beautiful chaos of genuine human freedom for the sterile, terrifying predictability of a digital slaughterhouse. It's a slow, agonizing suffocation of the human soul, delivered quietly through the sleek, glowing interfaces of our modern conveniences. But here is the massive, beautiful vulnerability in their seemingly flawless, inescapable digital trap that they are desperately trying to hide from you. The entire system completely relies on your willing participation and your absolute dependence on their centralized, synthetic food grid. If you learn how to step completely outside of their game, their glowing smart locks and their programmable currency instantly lose all of their power. There is a quiet, powerful movement of awake individuals who are already figuring out exactly how to break the chains and survive entirely off the grid. They are turning the oldest, most basic human skills into the ultimate weapon of defiance against the new global order. To understand how we can actually beat them at their own game, we have to look closely at the people who are already building the resistance. Now that you see the massive, invisible trap being meticulously set right over your dinner plate, the ultimate question is what you are actually going to do about it. Are you going to keep sleepwalking down the aisles of their corporate grocery stores, willingly handing over your biological freedom for a convenient, patented block of grey paste? Or are you going to wake up, get your hands dirty in the real soil, and start reclaiming your absolute independence before the digital locks completely snap shut on your own kitchen pantry? Surviving the arrival of this engineered scarcity requires you to radically change your lifestyle right now, completely detaching yourself from their fragile, rigged supply chains. You need to learn how to grow real food, store natural seeds, and build physical analog communities that don't rely on a glowing smart screen to survive. I want you to drop a comment below and tell me right now, what is the exact first step you are taking today to secure your family's food independence before this global net completely tightens? I am going to read through your strategies. And listen, if you absolutely refuse to let a tech billionaire copyright your dinner and you want to keep arming your mind with the raw, unfiltered truth, you need to subscribe to the Hidden channel right now. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into what is really happening behind the scenes. Stay awake, stay off their grid, and I will see you in the next investigation.